to our, oh, 1 second, let me get my Granicus pulled up, because, there we go, or I legislate. Come on. All right.
I don't know what she did.
Our 4.3 addendum, consideration of an update on the Cobb Area Road Rehabilitation Project, 2024 Pavement Rehabilitation Project, and possible direction to staff to modify the agreement between the County of Lake and Argonaut Constructors for the 2024 Pavement Rehabilitation Project to include asphalt paving for roads previously planned to be double chip sealed at an estimated additional cost of $1,100,000. Interim Public Works Director, Lars Ewing.
All right. Good morning. Lars Ewing, Interim Public Works Director. First off, I appreciate the addition of this item on the agenda. As your board is aware, construction is currently underway for what we're calling the Cobb Road Project, officially the 2024 Pavement Rehabilitation Project, which is reconstruction and repairs of about 16 miles of roads up in the Cobb area. A few weeks ago, and this just as a brief intro, I'll go into some background soon, but a few weeks ago, concerns were raised through a variety of different sources about the type of repairs for quite a few of the roads in the project. And ultimately that led me and others, ultimately me presenting here, to make the decision to pause the project and come to your board to ensure that we're moving ahead as appropriately. So for a little bit further background on the project, in July of 2024, your board approved the plans and specifications, basically the working drawings for the project. It had an estimate of about $8.9 million, and it was funded through SB1, which I believe your board is familiar with SB1. In January of 2025, so about 6 months later, the Public Works Department put the project out to bid. And 3 months later, in April of this year, your board awarded the construction contract to Argonaut. And then in June, early June, construction started. So that at that point, work was progressing, and to be quite honest, the work had progressed up until there were some concerns. Before I talk about the concerns, I think it's important to take a moment to just talk about the two general road repair methods that are included in this project. First, the roads themselves are the majority of them are local, what are classified as local roads. There are some minor collectors, specifically Sulphur Creek, Harrington Flat, Hoburg, and Summit, but the majority of the roads are local roads. The repair methods that are proposed are two general differences. One is pulverizing or grinding up the existing road, reshaping it, compacting it, and placing asphalt on top, either 2.5 inches or 3 inches of asphalt, or grinding, reshaping, compacting, and placing a chip seal on top, specifically a double chip seal. So we're talking about gravel and oil mix. So the combination of those two were all the local roads either received asphalt or double chip seal, and that's really where the issue came about is the concern of the double chip seal. At that point, I paused the contract after the first layer of chips were placed so that we could reevaluate. And I want to pause now to just take a moment to talk about the design. Nichols Consulting Engineers, who I believe is on Zoom, they were the design engineer for the project. They prepared the plans in consultation with Public Works staff, and they are renowned pavement design experts. Their goal in their pavement design report that was attached to the board memo, the goal was to provide a well-performing, smooth-riding pavements in a cost-effective manner within the desired budget of the county. Now, I'm not privy to the communications that occurred between former Public Works staff and NCE, but ultimately those communications resulted in the plans that were prepared and put out to bid. NCE is on Zoom. They're available to answer any questions. I was not planning on having them present, but if you have more technical design questions, they're certainly available. Also to talk about the actual construction, Argonaut construction, they are building the project per plan. This is not an issue with construction quality. It's being inspected by a third party, and from a construction quality perspective, they are building the project per plan. So the issue is more about the selection of road repair, specifically the double chip seal on some of these roads. The concerns led me to talk to road maintenance staff. Your road superintendent is here, Jim Hale. He expressed the same concerns about the placement of chip seal over, just specifically considering the nature of these roads. And I want to pause for a second just to talk about chip seal in general. Your board may be familiar with that term. Your road crew performs chip seals on roads just about every year. They're preparing roads right now in other areas of the county to place chip seals. The difference there is that their chip seals, that's a surface treatment on existing paved surfaces. They are doing some minor repairs, localized repairs. In some cases, placing a leveling course to improve the ride surface, and then placing a chip seal as a pavement preservation goal. Quite a bit different than grinding up a road, reshaping it, and then placing gravel directly on that reshaped road. And so the only reason I bring that up is that people will hear chip seal, and there are many different applications of chip seal. In this case, it is quite a bit different than what your road crew typically puts down. So after the discussions with the road crew and my own evaluation, it's my recommendation that we make a change to the contract to put asphalt down. Now, when I say put asphalt down, I mean the roads that have been pulverized, ground up, and we had put a single layer of chips on them. My recommendation is to change the contract and put asphalt. Reasons for that, recognizing it's more expensive, and we'll talk about the costs here in a second. But the drivers for that, it's a longer lifespan, placing hot mix asphalt down, fewer maintenance interventions, and future rework would be reduced. Better life cycle value, and in general, a big picture is a higher return on the investment for county infrastructure. One other added benefit to this is that the roads are already prepped. They've been pulverized. They've been shaped. They're ready to have asphalt placed on them. The financial impact is really what we need to consider at this point. The estimated cost of increasing the asphalt or placing asphalt on the about 5 miles of roads that have been chip sealed to date is about $1.4 million. That's included in the board memo. What is a change from the board memo based on new information is the cost savings that we expect to see in the contract based on changes that we've made to date. Changes such as reducing the second chip seal course, along with some reductions in material quantities, primarily asphalt for isolated digouts and such, as well as construction management cost savings through a different contract. But given how quickly Argonaut constructed the road, there's significant cost savings on the construction management side of things, because they're out there on essentially a time and materials basis, and so the less time they're there, there is anticipated to be quite a significant cost savings there. So the estimated cost savings is $700,000, which results in a net increase by placing asphalt of $700,000. Talking about funding sources here, the board, the memo references a $225,000 discretionary offer from Supervisor Pyska. I'll defer to her to talk about that. But given the change in recent information just from the posting of that memo, it is my recommendation that if the board cannot offer additional funding through other sources, the road fund does have appropriations this year to pay for it. So it's not a matter of budgetary appropriations. The issue is simply any money we spend there is money that can't be spent elsewhere on other roads around the county. So I want to, for a moment, just talk about both past and future work. I know we're here to talk about this one project, but I think it's important to consider work that has been done in recent years and what is proposed in future years. Over the last couple of years, and I'm specifically talking about road crew chip seal work. In 2022, about 16 miles of work was done in District 3, which was unincorporated Clear Lake and Clear Lake Oaks area. 2023, District 4, unincorporated Lakeport and Scotts Valley area, about 14 miles. 2024, last year, nothing was done. That was in anticipation of both this project that we're discussing, as well as about 36 miles of work that the road crew will be doing, and they're presently doing now. And so that brings us to now in District 1, District 5, in the Kelseyville and Lower Lake areas, 36 miles. So I'll note the increase in mileage. And I credit Jim Hale and his foreman and his road crew that they're doing a lot more than was done about a decade ago when I was in Public Works. It's a testament to their capabilities, but also their recognition and your board's recognition of the value in this, and investing in as I understand it, a much better chip spreading machine. So they're able to do a lot more. And so looking forward over the next few years, 2026, 27, and 28, they are anticipating about 80 miles of roads that can be chip sealed. This year will be a good test if are they able to get those 36 miles done. I have no reason to question that, but it would be in District 3, District 5, District 1, and 2. So we're talking Upper Lake, Nice, Lucerne, Kelseyville, Lower Lake, Hidden Valley, Middletown. Not all the roads in those areas, but just mind you that there is a plan. I think it would be a good opportunity in the upcoming weeks or months to just present that, even if it is at a preliminary basis. But it gives you a sense of what is in the works, and that work being done by your road crew is at a much more cost effective than a contract. That's not to say that the contractors that they are gouging us, far from it. But your road crew is their salaries are paid whether we put them to chip seal roads or not, and we want to make use of their capabilities. And so essentially it's material costs. That's what we're talking about. The average cost, just in discussions with Jim Hale, we're looking at under $100,000 on average per mile to chip seal a road that is in halfway decent shape. Some of them require more, some less, but on average, you're looking at that. Compare that to the contract cost up in Cobb, it's over $300,000 a mile. Now, recognizing that's in the contract, that was a mix of both asphalt and chip seal roads, but still, I would argue that it's likely about half the cost, if not less than that, for the road crew to do the work. So I say that because this contract, while well intended, certainly understanding why it went to contract, but I think looking ahead, it's an opportunity for the road crew to do the majority of the work. So looking at the next steps, really the next steps that are suggested if we have $700,000 net, if we are able to identify the funding for this project, I would recommend that we provide a change order to Argonaut Constructors to add asphalt to those roads that were chip sealed. And that would come back to your board in the next week or two. We've been in preliminary discussions with Argonaut through our construction management firm. They have indicated that Argonaut will honor the unit prices that are in the contract. And they've also identified that they have availability near the end of August and early September to come back and do paving. So it does look like it would be a viable option if the money is available. So if the funding is not identified, we move ahead as what I would suggest is that we move ahead as planned in the contract. That would mean placing a second layer of chips. I have to acknowledge that it would be at a higher cost because we did put a pause on the contract. So there would be an added cost to remobilizing the contractor and specifically their subcontractor for chip seal. But that would be the option if the funding is not identified. So I'll end it there and happy to answer any questions. Again, NCE Consulting Engineers is available on Zoom. We also have in the board chambers Road Superintendent Jim Hale and also Alicia Ayala for finance and admin if there are any detailed financial questions. But hopefully we don't get there because I don't think she brought down her whole book. But I'll end it there and happy to answer any questions. I'll pause it to see if Susan had anything to add here.
None at this time.
Okay.
Right, go ahead, Supervisor Price. Go.
Well, interim director, thank you for acting on this so quickly. I know you've got a lot on your plate, and this has all been moving really fast. And so you and your staff have been really agile with this and working hard to make sure that we find the right solution. And I also really want to recognize the members of the public who live on these streets who really immediately noticed that there was an issue here. We had a long discussion at the Cobb Area Council, and you came to that, Lars, and we really heard a lot from the people. The intention of this project was to rehabilitate these roads, and identifying this, we're in a tricky spot because we don't have the last two directors who worked on these plans. And at some point, it seems that there were decisions made along the way to stretch the dollar further. Unfortunately, we're in a place where these roads are very steep, very narrow in some places. And this year we got 80 inches of rain and a lot of snow. So these roads probably get abused in ways that other roads throughout the county don't. And I know all the people sitting in here are nodding their heads. And so if we're looking at these road projects as rehabilitation projects and reconstruction projects, we want them to last. And we're investing these dollars right now. We want to do this right, and we don't want to have to come back to these roads for 10 or 15 years. We want to make sure when we're putting these plans together for the future, and I don't know if the engineers online can speak to this, but what if we're talking about developing plans economically, what about the lifespan of these roads? And is that considered with the weather, the snow plows, the buses, the garbage trucks, the slope, all these other considerations that happen in this area of the county that likely don't happen in other areas of the county? So, you know, all this to say is, I think we need to make a change. We need to make sure that we're doing this in a way that, you know, our investment is going to be solid for the next decade plus, hopefully. I'm obviously willing to put forth that discretionary money, so that makes this ask below $500,000. So that's considerably better than it was when we first started talking about it. But this really is an adjustment that we need to make. You know, this is an area primarily that burned in the fire. There's a lot of trauma associated with that and with the people that live in these neighborhoods that put everything into rebuilding. And so when we have these conversations, you can feel that trauma. We also, it's been 10 years because there's been significant infrastructure updates that had to happen. There were the water lines that had to be installed and the fire hydrants. And that's what's taken so long to get these roads on the plan. Now, there are some neighborhoods that are still waiting for that infrastructure, so they're not on the plan yet. And then there are some roads that are about to get their infrastructure. So when we talk about the miles for asphalt and chip seal, particularly the neighborhood of Entrance Drive, is that going to remain chip seal because we know the water company is working towards installing that infrastructure in the next couple of years?
Yes, yeah, there are a list of roads that I have here somewhere that we identified, 3 or 4 or 5 roads that we coordinated with the Cobb Water Company, and we chip sealed those roads just to make sure that they were sealed. It doesn't make sense to go up and repave them, so that those would be excluded from paving just for we don't want to go back in and cut them. That doesn't mean that there couldn't be future work done up there, but those would be excluded, yes.
Yeah. And we had to take a hard look at stopping this project, you did, and delete roads off this project too, correct?
Correct. Yeah, there were about 3 or 4 roads that were either one road taken off entirely, a few others that were reduced in length because after the project went out to bid, it was recognized that there were road repairs that had previously been done. I believe. I'm not going to say how or when it was done. It was after the Valley Fire, but the roads had been repaired. So those were deleted from the contract. That leads to some of those cost savings in the contract that I referenced earlier.
Okay. But again, going back to the public safety piece of this is, these roads are steep and we have standards for, we have county standards. CAL FIRE has standards to make sure that fire engines and the ambulances can get up. We have the school buses that travel on these roads. So there's a lot of conditions that we need to consider, or other users that we need to consider. So I don't know if the engineers kind of want to speak to some of these things that I've brought up, but ultimately I think this board needs to make a choice of, when we do these rehabilitation projects, are we really going to invest these dollars for the long haul to make sure that we don't have to come back and fix this in a year or two or every year after the snowplow comes and scrapes off the top layer. So, I think this is a conversation that we need to have, and we've got a road plan going forward. Obviously, we're going to have a new director at some point. And so we really need to be intentional on how we do this work going forward.
Okay. Before I ask NCE to talk, I have had conversations with NCE, and as I mentioned, they are probably world-renowned pavement design experts. So the chip seal, better to hear from them, but certainly it was not a deficient selection, is what I would offer. Less than that, it's more about the long-term return on investment.
Right.
How frequently will our road crews have to be up there with a chip seal? How long does it last? And that's a tough question for NCE to answer. I will just suggest that on average, an asphalt road of 2.5 inches, comparing apples to apples, an asphalt road of 2.5 inches with in comparison to a chip seal, probably double the lifespan. And we talk about what is proposed in this project, and was going to be built was a double chip seal. For whatever reason, the contract specifications, I don't believe, I think it was a 3/8 inch followed by a 3-inch chip, but it did not include a topping fog seal. Minor issue, but it that's a little bit different than what our road crew does. So anyways, I will pause there just because it's much more valuable to hear from either James or Andre from NCE. So I'll offer it over to them to add any comments here.
Sure, I'll start. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about this. I'd like to just back up, if I may, for a minute and talk about the big picture of what we were asked to do when we started working with the county. And NCE's been working with the county on various projects for probably the last 10 or 15 years. The county, as you know, the roads in that area are pretty decimated. They're in quite poor shape. And we went and looked at them, and we did survey investigations. We did physical coring and looked at the soils and the materials they were comprised of. And we needed to make some decisions. And we had constraints. We had a budget limit that we needed to try to hit when we were developing these recommendations. And so if, based on what Lars is saying, for example, the vast majority of the roads are surfaced with 2.5 to 3 inches of asphalt on top of a pulverized material. And the point of the pulverization was to create a solid working platform to pave on, which is one thing the streets did not have. And so we thought that made a lot of sense in working with the previous director to do that. What could have been done with the budget theoretically is, maybe we put a thinner layer across all the roads. And ultimately our concern about that was, if you do that, then you end up potentially in a situation similar to where you are now, where your roads fail much quicker. And so the idea there was to put 2.5, 3 inches down, which, as Lars would said, would give a nice long life to the roads that were there. And most of the roads that we replaced with 2.5 to 3 inches had a current thickness of maybe an inch, inch and a half, some at 2 inches, some a little thicker here and there. And so those roads were built to last. There's no doubt about that. The only roads that were used for chip seals, to my recollection, were what we would consider to be very low traffic, low speed type roads. And that's not to say that if we had more budget, we wouldn't have put hot mix down. Decisions needed to be made as far as what was practical within the budget. You know, the roads that were replaced with chip seals, by and large, had, you know, 1.25 inch, 3/4 of an inch of asphalt. Is that any better than a double chip seal, which is going down at an inch thick? You know, shy of going out and actually testing it, you know, comparing it, it's unknowable, but I would say it's probably comparable. But what we were trying to do in the big picture of the project was replace, wherever possible, thin county roads, typically less than an inch, inch and a half thick, with fairly stout sections wherever we could on the more collector, high traffic routes, things like that. And then we did it as much as we could to the budget. And then where the roads were deemed lesser traffic, lower speeds, we filled those in, so to speak, with the double chip, which is a double chip on top of aggregate base, is a very common, it's called bituminous surface treatment. It's very common treatment used in rural agencies around the Western United States. And, you know, it's designed to flex, it's designed to tolerate movement. Is it ideal perhaps under a snowplow? Depends on how the driver driver drives. But once it gets, what you're looking at now with the first lift, after you put the second lift, it gets traffic down, smoothed out a bit. If you do fog seal it, as Lars talked about, it would help lock it down even further. But it may not be exactly what the residents want, but given the constraints we had, that's what we decided to do, and with the county's blessing. So, Andre, I don't know if you want to add to that, or
just that, as Lars mentioned, that a lot of the county roads are chip sealed. So the performance of that chip seal and the chip seal that we're putting down, I'm not sure it really differs by that much. Under the similar loading condition, meaning, again, for either snow or rain and so forth. So the durability of when you put chip seal on those versus the new double chip seal is probably not that far off. Wouldn't you? I mean, James is our senior pavement, senior pavement engineer in our company. So James has seen a lot of this. I would assume that's a fair statement, James. That, again, it's similar.
And can you talk about lifespan of the two different applications?
Sure, it's difficult to predict exact lifetimes, but we would typically expect to get 10, 15 years out of a double chip in a low traffic environment.
With snowplows?
That's, again, it depends, how's the snowplow driving? Are they digging in? Or are they going above? It's a tough call. Again, I just want to go back to the constraints we had during the design process, and that, we could have called for the same, let me back up for a second. The asphalt concrete is about 50% more expensive than the double chip. So theoretically, we could have put in a very thin asphalt layer in those neighborhoods, but it didn't. I don't think that's going to last. I think that would crack and fail much quicker than the double chip. It may have been a smoother surface, but I don't think it would have the longevity that the more flexible double chip would have. That's where I would take it.
So, but can I just ask one more?
Yeah.
Sorry. So just following up then, if we were to make this change order and have asphalt, is that over what's already happened? Is that going to be stronger, last longer, be able to withstand the weather and the elements? And a lot of these roads are very steep. So that definitely is an element. We have steep roads and snow plows every winter.
Well, actually, ironically, putting the asphalt on top of that chip seal should perform quite well. I think, as Lance was saying, you have a flexible material at the bottom that's bending under the truckloads. You have a new asphalt surface, and I think you wouldn't have to worry about the snowplow issues. So,
Thank you.
Vice Chair?
Yes, thank you. So it sounds like we're potentially down to about 475,000. That's if we used discretionary funds out of the budget. So first I wanted to confirm that money all the way up to the 700,000 is already in the Public Works budget.
It is.
We don't have to go pull from another fund somewhere.
Right, correct. Yeah, the both appropriations and funding from SB1 are there. The current budget 25-26 includes enough capital appropriations for this project to pay for this, and if not, then we do have funding in the services and supplies budget for essentially unanticipated occurrences like this. So,
And then so with diverting that money, I was just hoping to get a little more information about how that's going to potentially affect other projects in the rest of the county for at least the rest of this budget year.
well, I'm not going to ask Jim or Alicia to come up and say what we won't do because that's a challenge. My hunch is, based on the information that I have, that it's not going to change anything that we have planned for 26 or 27 or even 2025. I would welcome Jim or Alicia to come up and correct me, but the unanticipated occurrences funding that we have in the budget would address issues like this. So yeah, to answer it, I don't anticipate any changes as a result of this.
Okay, and then more of a comment here. I'm not a road expert, but the double chip seals that I've seen that have been effective and lasted had pavement underneath the double chip seal. Whether it was, for example, I've seen them where it's been ground up and then a thin layer of asphalt added before the double chip seal. And my understanding on the double chip seal on some of these roads, it's basically all the pavement's gone and it's just chip seal over dirt, double chip seal over dirt.
Yeah, it's a bit more than dirt. It has been. They're grinding up the existing surface, compacting it, reshaping it. But you're right. It is a chip seal on top of a non-hardened surface. I guess I'll say that.
Okay, and I think my other questions were already covered.
Supervisor Owen?
Yes, I have a question about the concrete in the earthquake areas with the movement up there, with the geothermal activity that's in that area. There's not the forgiveness or the flexing, to my knowledge, in the concrete. Would it possibly create more cracking than doing the double chip seal with the flexion?
Before Nancy answers that, concrete is, there's a couple of different varieties of concrete. We're not talking about a sidewalk type concrete. We're talking about asphalt concrete, which is, in the engineering world, it's a flexible pavement. So
Okay.
that doesn't mean flexible like a rubber band. It just means it's dependent upon the underlying surface, and it has some flexibility. Cracks will happen. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But in comparison to a quote unquote concrete, sidewalk.
That's what
where
I'm
there's
thinking of.
No, that's a rigid pavement. That is not what would be what we're proposing. This would be asphalt that generally bends and flexes.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Probably be best if I didn't talk, but I need to say something. We failed. The process was correct. We had plans made available to us. We approved these plans. 2 directors have gone through these plans and continued to push forward with these plans. And now we're saying something went wrong. And I'm glad that we mentioned that Argonaut is not messing anything up. They are doing exactly a specification. I appreciate that because I heard and saw comments that said otherwise. So we are not giving them more money when they messed up. That is not the case. I'm between a rock and a hard place, but I do have to say we failed at one point as this board by approving today what we're doing when we've already approved what was already happening in the first place. And we need to do a better job of either understanding what we're approving or making sure that we review what we're approving, because every plan that is submitted to us is not submitted to us directly. It is very indirect. I have gone to the clerk of the board. I have approached you, Mr. Ewing, Director Ewing, in order to find those plans, in order to flip through them and go, because they're large pieces of papers, they're large amounts of material, and it's not an easy attachment that we can put in there. But the fact of the matter is, this should have been known. Pulverize was in there, pulverize and chip seal, and pulverize and asphalt. It is not a full surprise other than if you didn't know. I'm also going to be rude, but this is a little bit of a spectacle to invite NCE, to have the whole leadership of, this is a simple conversation of we messed up, we asked for the wrong thing, we're asking to fix it. Should have been a very simple item. Instead, we have this. I am frustrated with this, but we can't do roads wrong. And in fact, this thing we're doing here is a slap in the face to people who are waiting for their roads to happen, and to be honest. But we can't do them wrong. If we do them wrong, then when they get their roads done, they're just gonna laugh at us and say, whatever, you guys don't know what you're doing. We have to make sure that there is longevity in the road system. We have to make sure that we do it correctly. I wish our process had been done differently to get to the point that we are here, because it doesn't have to be this way.
All right, if I could respond to that briefly. As far as the spectacle, as the interim director who's been here, who came on board when this project was 3 weeks under construction, and who doesn't have, who was not involved with anything at all with this, I think it was important for me to have the right people in the room. So I just wanted to address that. As far as the other, any decisions that were made in the past, I'm not here to say that those decisions were wrong. That chip seal is a viable product. I brought NCE because they are the experts, and I knew that questions like this would come up. So I do not want to be up here as the interim director saying that any former directors or anyone involved with the project made an incorrect decision. It's a judgment call, is what I would suggest.
All right. Any other comments? Did we want to have any staff come up, or they
Nope.
just want to answer when they? Okay, so I'll open it up for public comment.
Good afternoon, Board. I was just listening in here, and I think there's a question that still has been asked, but it really hasn't yet been answered, and that is, what is the return on investment? I think it's a simple question. We approved a plan that's supposed to have a longevity of X, and we're now being told that if we go to this alternative plan, it will have a greater return on investment, a greater longevity, but that's not been quantified. And you can't really calculate your return on investment unless you know that denominator. I think Supervisor Pysko is very patient. I think she asked the question 2 to 3 different ways and still hasn't received a legitimate answer. So I think it's a simple question. For the road that was approved, how long was it expected to last? And if we go to an alternative method, yes, there's a cost to it, but how long is that supposed to last? That should be known. And it could be that this is not an extra cost in the long term. It could be a net savings, but we don't know that because that question has yet to be answered. Thank you.
All right.
Good morning. I'm Tom Slate. That gentleman's concerns, I guess, are all right. I don't know. That's not why I'm here. I'm here for, I think, very specific reasons, and thank you for your comments. Personally, I don't hold any of you accountable necessarily about a failure. You, to some degree, you need to count on your department heads, and I think that's what that was about. There's so many, the chip seal, there's so many questions and concerns about it. Not the chip seal itself. I mean, there is that, but there's far more. I'll just give one quick example. An email that I sent to Supervisor Pyska. I'm just checking to confirm that you'll be requesting the traffic survey information that was alluded to at the Cobb Council meeting. I would like to see it. I'm wondering about what it would show due to some areas that would have very low traffic, such as Blues Way, a dead end that with my very informal estimate may be well over 500 feet, has just one house at the end. It is at a much lower level than my neighborhood, on top of the hill, Fox Venturi, that requires snow removal, clearing more often. It received asphalt paving, and I'm referring to Blues Way, and we're getting chip sealing. That's just one of many, many concerns, because I didn't want to go through the list. I think there could be a long list. And in closing, I'm thinking of that saying we've probably all heard, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions, and I think asphalt paving for the project. And if you don't do that, then what? I don't know. So I hope you'll approve the asphalt paving. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, come on up.
I'm going to be reading from a paper today, and I think a lot of it is because these seem like just roads, but it's a really emotional issue.
Oh, can you give your name real quick?
Grace Ernst.
Okay, thanks.
It's an emotional issue for a lot of us. Again, staying here after the fire and working so hard to rebuild and feel like you're fighting for something as simple as a road can bring you a lot of joy or be really devastating. So I have called home. I've called Cobb home for the past 13 years. While the residents of Cobb have experienced incredible hardships due to fires, storms, and insurance challenges, I have witnessed a resilient community of people dedicated to rebuilding and improving the mountain town we call home. Today, I ask you to invest in Cobb and its residents, not just because they deserve your support, but because it is the most financially beneficial choice for the county in the long term. When I found out that our neighborhood roads were finally being repaved, my first feeling was one of relief. Relief that we would no longer have to watch our roads deteriorate year after year, undoubtedly lowering property values, and relief that I, along with my neighbors, would no longer have to call the county several times a year to fix the dozens of large potholes that appear and reappear. Unfortunately, my relief was short-lived when I found out we would not be getting asphalt, a material expected to last 10, 15, 20 years, but instead would receive double chip seal that in the best case scenario would last just a few years and will require periodic resealing and constant repairs by the county from regular wear and tear. On top of that best case scenario isn't even realistic for our area. Cobb is one of the only parts of Lake County that can expect snowfall every year, often with multiple storms throughout the winter. While we are grateful for the plows, they are hard on the roads and chip and seal will be no match. Additionally, the rebuilding efforts continue on Cobb, leading to large construction vehicles and equipment traffic that will contribute to an accelerated breakdown of the chip seal material. Last week, the first coat of chip seal was applied to our roads. It has already developed potholes, areas of exposed dirt, and erosion on the perimeter, and that's with good weather and just a few cars driving by. It is troubling to think about how the deterioration will progress and accelerate once we begin to get rain and snow. I can appreciate that Lake County is not working with the same budget some of our neighboring counties and needs to spend every dollar wisely. That is why I ask that you approve the amended plan to lay asphalt paving instead of chip seal. While the initial investment may be higher, in the long run, the county will save future funds on repairs, resealing or repaving, and allow maintenance staff to prioritize other needs in the county. I love Cobb and want to live here for many more years. Please amend this project so we can have quality, long-lasting infrastructure that will ultimately improve property values and save the county money. Thank you for your consideration.
Come on up. Did you want
Hi there. My name is Jake Strickler. I'm a Cobb resident and local engineer, and I'm just here to support any changes to help rehab the roads from a double chip seal to a paved section. A lot of these items have already been touched on by Mr. Ewing and NCE. Reduce maintenance costs, provide a better material. And I think one issue that came up for a lot of folks was going from seeing a paved road outside to a gravel type surface. And I think not knowing the structural aspects of things, that might have caused a lot of concern for folks. The other recommendation I would have is, I know there's a lot of areas planned for future road rehabilitation projects. Maybe it would be wise to have a kind of a site-specific consideration and constraints for slopes, or if you are in an area for environmental factors, or the engineers that are designing the road rehab projects. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathy McCarthy. I am a member of the Cobb Area Council, a chair, but I'm speaking for myself this morning, and was out of town during our last meeting, and I'm so sad to have missed it because so many of our residents were distressed, and rightly so. I don't think I could summarize what Grace said any better. She's hit the nail on the head. It is an emotional issue for a lot of us, but it's also financial. I mean, we have to consider the cost-benefit analysis, our long-term investment. And as a Cobb resident, especially one who had to rebuild after the fire, like every decision that you made was, is this going to help us to be self-sufficient? Are we going to be able to continue? What if the power goes out? Let's use a gas stove so we can still cook for ourselves. What if maybe we need a bigger generator? Maybe we need a bigger propane tank. All these things so that we could be self-sufficient and survive. Because yes, our county does a great job of plowing the roads, and PG&E does a pretty good job now of getting the power back on. But having a road that would last 20 years is that same kind of decision we would have made for ourselves. So I hope that you would consider that and approve the changes to the contract. Thank you.
My name is Alexis Johnson. I live in Cobb. I live on the corner of Elliott and Lassen. That's where they put the first layer of chip seal down. I've watched it already become potholes in it just from the garbage trucks. That doesn't include the snow plows. That doesn't include the fire emergency vehicles. We get trees down up there. So it's a big concern. So I'm asking to please think in favor of the asphalt for our community. Thank you.
Jessica. Hi, I'm Paul Crone. I'm a resident up at Cobb, and I'm in support of the asphalt repaving, just for the record. And I'm voicing some questions from many people in the community. Couple questions. There was some talk about preliminary investigation of the roads and that some of them got deleted. There's many who are questioning why the Fox Drive Loop got repaved. A lot of people have the conviction that section was in good shape.
and I hope there's nobody offended that's from the Fox Drive loop, but I think people there were all happy with their road, so we questioned that. And the other question we had was that there seems to be a common factor of the roads that got selected for chip seal, that they're all steep. And so there's the question, if the company doing this work, if they have the equipment to maybe handle those steep roads or not, and maybe that's why it didn't get done. So, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Go ahead, Lars.
And try to
1 second, Tom. He's going to answer him.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lars.
Try to respond to some of those. The Fox Drives, I was looking for the pavement condition index. It wasn't in this set of plans, but I believe it was relatively high. Why that was selected for asphalt as opposed to any others that received chip seal. I think there was some geographic considerations trying to collect them together, as I understand it, just in discussions with NCE and others. The steep aspect is likely an issue, but unfortunately the people that made those ultimately made those judgment calls are not available.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. I'm still operating on my 3 minutes, I hope. So
you just if you just finish up, please.
okay, just what I wanted to point out, for me, it's not particularly an emotional issue. I think there's some very real practical reasons for this, and this is why we're here. And that's Mr. Ewing and the supervisors and all that. So this is far more than emotional, real, honest, practical reasons. So thank you. It's not just all emotion.
All right. Any other public comment on Zoom? Paul, if you can unmute.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Paul Duncan, I am the operations chief for CAL FIRE and the chief of South Lake County Fire. Just want to echo the concerns that were brought about with the road surfaces and the steep driveways and the steep roads, that we need to maintain that state minimum of 75,000 pounds and an aggregate base of those roads to support that equipment. The worry is that with the small amount of asphalt that was ground up into a road base and then compacted, especially on the upper Summit Drive area, it really looks like dirt with tar over the top of it. So someone else, Grace has already said, that was already being picked up and moved around. And I worry in the wintertime when we have to roll fire apparatus up those roads, and not having that support base under there, that aggregate base to spread that load out of the chip seal, that we're going to have issues getting fire equipment to emergencies. So that's a concern. The others was also echoed with the snowplow, that area does see a lot of snowplow activity. And yes, we cannot control the depth of the plow operators they're operating, but putting a chip seal down to me is not a long-term solution, and it is a hazard for that community. So I would advocate for that. And thank you, Lars, for being an asset and a advocate for this, because it is a large issue for these folks up here. Thank you very much.
If I could reply quickly, I think it's important to note on the chip seal, one layer of chips have been placed down there. So what you're seeing up there would not be the final product. So just important to recognize that.
Anyone else on Zoom? If you can unmute Russell.
Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, my name's Russell Rosenthal, and I grew up on Cobb. I live on Lassen Drive, and I'd just like to add that I think that, along with some of the other people who've spoken today, that my biggest concern in this area is that we have very steep roads in our area, steep long stretches of roads. Some of those steep long stretches end at stop signs. You do have commercial vehicle traffic as far as the garbage trucks and stuff like that. They're going to be stopping on my road in particular, where, I'd estimate the grade to be 25 to 30% with a stop right there. And I really don't believe that the chip seal is going to hold up. especially during plowing and snow and during the winters. And that it's a poor decision to leave it that way in those areas, in those steep areas. So I'll just leave it at that, and thank you for your time.
Any other public comment? Gabrielle, if you can unmute.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So my name is Gabrielle Dorset, and I am on the turnabout. And Regina is the street that I usually come through that is totally grinded up and so much gravel. I'm new to this area. I had to buy a Jeep just because I don't want to get trapped up there if there's a fire or if I need to get out, because I'm single and I'm up here by myself. And my driveway, actually, there's a big gap and a big gap in the neighbor's driveway as well. And, you know, we, like, a lot of times the cleaners don't even clean our street. They don't even come up and do anything up in our roundabout because we're isolated by ourselves. And, you know, I pay a lot of homeowners tax. And I also, you know, my flood insurance and my earthquake insurance and my homeowner's insurance is really outrageous. And so I don't know. I feel like we are due having the street repaired and fixed so that that gravel, when we come down Regina, isn't hitting our vehicles and, you know, destroying the tires. And so that's just my input. And if we need to get in and out, you know, we're doing our dues on paying our homeowners taxes and keeping our property. I had to do a whole renovation on my house because of people that were allowed to live in there prior to that destroyed the house because the police wouldn't evict them. And so I don't know. I just hope that they can be properly fixed. Thanks.
All right. Any other public comment? Laurel Phillips, if you can unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, this is Laurel Phillips and Sean Conover. We live on Lassen Drive, and we have another issue we'd like to speak to.
Yeah, the question I have is why this work started before the roads were properly cleared and cleaned. There's in particular at the end of the road, where Miss Johnson lives, that spoke earlier. The road, there's about 2 feet of organic material to where the edge of the road was previously to the curb that wasn't cleaned off. And this is on St. Helena. This is everywhere in this neighborhood where they came in and started, you know, running the pulverizer just to, you know, the width that they could get to with. And a lot of the brush also was not cleared back previous to this work being done. And the question I have would be: is it normal for the proper for the pulverizer to grind through? Obviously, they're supposed to grind through the asphalt in the base, but also into the organic material below it and mix that in. Is that proper and typical in the this type of installation?
And are you finished? They're finished?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Those are my concerns. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Lars.
I can look into that a bit, but the specs required a 4-inch pulverization. That's what the contractor was required to do. So if I understand correctly, there was organic material under somewhere under the base, or if I'm understanding maybe incorrectly, if it was, you know, vegetation that was on the side of the road, that's a different story. But the contractor came through, brought in essentially a pulverizer, almost a garden, you know, on a large basis. People that might be familiar with a rototiller, I mean, it's that on steroids, and it's pulverizing. It's set to 4 inches, so it, you know, they couldn't inspect what was under that. So I can't speak to the organic material on that. I can contact back the construction inspector and look at that road, see if there were records of that. But 4 inches of pulverization is what was spec'd out.
All right, any other comment on Zoom? Oh, okay. Any other in chambers? If not, I'll close public input and bring it back to the board.
I have one question.
Go ahead.
Okay. By putting in the concrete, I feel better about the concrete, knowing that there's some flux there. So by putting in the concrete mix versus the double chip seal, what are we expected? What's the longevity? What's the change on that?
Well, I'll answer it from a field. I guess I'm in the middle. We have engineers on the screen, which I am an engineer, and we have our road maintenance crew who ultimately owns and maintains these roads on your behalf. I take both sides. I factor in both sides, and I would suggest that you're looking at least double the life by placing hot mix asphalt. I think 15 to 20 years on the double chip seal on those roads is highly optimistic, to be quite honest. If you're talking about a straight farm road with minimal driveways, that's one thing. But 15 to 20 years, or excuse me, 10 to 15, I believe is what they said. I think we're looking at single digits for the life of that, whereas you'd be looking at least double that with hot mix asphalt. That would be my, again, to use the judgment term, that would be my judgment for the difference between those two.
So that would be probably getting us into the 15 to 20 years with the concrete.
Correct. I would argue 15. Now that doesn't mean that we are
Yes.
that we don't respond up there, that we don't go up and seal coat where we can. But the Nice Lucerne cutoff, I'll use that as an example. That was constructed. The majority of that was paved about 12, 13 years ago. So it still has decent life in it. There are cracks we have to maintain. But the longevity of 2.5 inches of asphalt, I would argue, is at least double that over a double chip seal.
Okay. And then the second part of the question would be, so it's substantially more. Is it possible to reduce the mileage to make up for some of that? The mileage that we have in the plan, would that be an alternative?
Well, yes, we need to reduce it. We mentioned earlier some of the roads that will be receiving water line improvements. We won't be paving those. But to reduce any further, if there are roads that have been pulverized and have a single coat of chip seal on them, if we're going to, we need to do something on them.
Oh, absolutely.
And if we can afford to put the hot mix asphalt on there, that's what I would suggest. If we cannot, then we certainly need to get up and at least get a second coat of chips on them.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. I just want to say that, I understand the comments from the citizens that came from Cobb, and I empathize, especially considering, the effects of the fire, that took place. And I don't say this to marginalize any of those comments or the project in general, but coming from a district with the lowest PCI in the county, there's some areas where the garbage truck doesn't even come. They can't even get service. When there's fires in the hills and district, there's CAL FIRE and all the other agencies can get up there despite it being dirt roads and whatnot. Oak Mountain gets snow. I know that it's not paved, but there's groups that go up there as well. But again, I'm not trying to go against this project. I support it. I just want to emphasize that I just want these to get done so my district can get a higher PCI code. The Nice Lucerne cutoff can finally not have those adjustments so that people can travel on there because there's a high amount of folks that go through there. So I only say that just to kind of like stand on a soapbox. I'm not trying to go against this, but yeah. Supervisor Sabatier?
Yeah, just I guess, legal question. We went for bids. The bid we went with was 5.1, and just to add a missing step to it, I know I looked at the what did you call it? The invitation for bids. I went to the invitation for bids, and already the 8.9 had been reduced to 6.5 as far as the estimated cost because of maybe a reduction in roads or something along those lines. The process didn't change that NCE had scripted, but the number of roads probably changed to $6.5 million. So we're still within that budget that we originally intended to spend. But the fact that the increase, which is a little bit smaller now, is still more than 10%, probably around the 15% margin. and that we're changing what the project is in the sense that now we're taking away the double chip seal and we're looking at adding more asphalt. Where are we in the legal matters of going out to bid, getting some bid proposals, and changing it as much as we are? Are we safe within the boundaries of these changes?
Well, you used the L word, so I'm the legal word.
It was very specifically tailored for. Yes.
Sure, Lars, you don't want to chime in, really? Go ahead.
So just to clarify, your question, Supervisor, is whether or not this needs to be set out, this particular action of paving needs to be set out for another bid.
I would prefer not. That's not my question. Is based on the invitation for bids and the detail and description of the project and the changes and the cost increase that are being offered and suggested here, are we required to go back out to bid, or can we continue in a safe manner?
While we're waiting, I can just offer just some, based on my experience when I was with Public Works. First off, the project includes a bid line item for hot mix asphalt. Whether it's placed at 2.5 inches or 3 is irrelevant with respect to the use of it. So there is a line item that we can tap into. The fact that we're talking about 5 miles of roads here for a 16-mile project, which implies that 11 miles of roads have already received pavement. We are talking about not an insignificant change, but it's not we're not doubling, certainly not. I mean, we're talking about maybe 25%, and that's just a ballpark figure. But it's not a new bid item. It's very common that change orders occur. You negotiate with the contractor. In this case, it's not even a negotiation. The bid item, the bid prices they remain. So it's very common that things like this happen. If we were changing the scope of significantly the scope of the project, where we don't want to put hot mix asphalt down, we want to put a rigid pavement, or we want to build sidewalks, that's a different thing entirely. But we're talking about materials that are already included in the contract.
Go ahead, Casey.
Casey Moreno, Deputy County Administrative Officer.
1 second. Did you want to go first?
No, that's fine. My understanding is that the purchasing policy has changed recently. I would ask for a couple of minutes to look it up to see if something is significant applies here. However, typically, the bid process was for the entire project, and as Lars has said, this is a change in an element of that project. It's not a new project, so it wouldn't necessarily require to be re-offered for bid.
Casey?
I agree to that. So the purchasing ordinance did change around the time that this was accepted back in July of 2024. And so I don't have all the documents in front of me, but it's just an element that is changing, which was already pretty previously included. So it is fine.
Thank you, Casey. All right. All right.
I mean, I'll just say that, there's been a lot of lessons learned in this project. We're on our 3rd director with this project. We have another one coming up. And I think as a board, when we look at these projects, we need to make sure that we're doing these projects to a standard that's going to, give us a long-term return on our investment. And obviously there was choices made along the way to stretch that dollar, and it's just not adequate. And we're at a place right now where we can pivot and adjust. And luckily it's a lot less than what was posted in the agenda. I'm pushing in most of my my discretionary funding to make this happen because it's that important.
All right. If there's nothing else, I think it's action.
It's direction.
Direction.
It's direction to come back at a different, either next week or the week following, which would include a change order.
It will include a change order. We'll need time. I can't promise that it'll be next week because we need to get to Argonaut. We still have we still need to, the second chip seal reduction. They're still working on the reduction for that because that was not a standalone line item. Double chip seal was the line item, so they placed a single chip seal, which they need to figure out what the net result is. So they're working on that. So we will need some time to come back, but it would be a change order that your board would see.
All right, I see it now. Sorry about that. Vice Chair?
Yeah, so I'm in support of making the change with the use of Supervisor Pyska's funding for the reason that will help, since it is in her district, that will help reduce any further impact on other areas of the county that could have been impacted because of the addition of this money. That's where I'm at.
I'm there too, because I also heard, Lars, you had stated it's not going to delay any other projects than any other areas or anything like that. That's I guess, did I hear that right?
I see Jim nodding his head.
Okay, thanks. All right. With that, I think we have direction. Is there anything else? All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, thank you for what you guys are doing.
Yes, no, thank you again. I wanted to say that too, and I missed my opportunity. Lars, thanks for stepping in and making this opportunity to have this discussion. And just as I think as most recently you stepped in and you've really kind of taken a lot of this on, despite what all you the other things you do. So thanks again on that, Susan as well. So